heard of The Human Centipede, you probably know it as the movie that's become infamous for its grotesque, almost unthinkable premise. A mad doctor is surgically sewing people together in a nasty centipede formation? Ew. It's the kind of movie that evokes disgust. Revulsion even. But there's more to it than meets the eye. So, let's talk about why The Human Centipede is, in fact, a good movie. Hi! Vomitgrub here. You can call me Vom or Grub. I don't care. I love the horror genre. Games, movies, special effects, meatbag anatomy, you name it and I know about it. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could a film so depraved, so controversial be anything but, well, trash? And you're entitled to that opinion. Even though it's wrong! The Human Centipede is not just shocking for shock's sake. Instead, it taps into something far deeper, a kind of primal fear and unease about our bodies, control, and the nature of horror itself. So, let's dive into The Human Centipede. The first sequence. The film follows two American tourists, Lindsay and Jenny, who find themselves stranded in rural Germany. They seek help at a house only to be abducted by Dr. Heiter, a mad scientist with a horrific experiment in mind. At face value, the idea of a doctor creating a human centipede by surgically connecting people is vile. Yet, it forces you to confront human nature, mortality, and our reaction to extreme taboo. The genre of horror is traditionally about pushing boundaries, and The Human Centipede does just that in the way other films simply don't. It's not just about body horror, it's about the extremity of the situation and the character's helplessness within it. Dehumanization and loss of bodily autonomy. The Human Centipede is a brutal commentary on dehumanization, using a shocking premise to highlight the loss of individuality and autonomy. Dr. Heiter, the antagonist, removes their agency and autonomy, reducing them to mere objects for his perverse science experiment. By surgically connecting his victims, he strips them of their identities and bodily integrity, turning them into a single entity without personal will or dignity. But despite being connected, each character faces the concept of dehumanization in different ways. Katsuro, played by Akihira Kitamura, is the front part of the centipede. He's the only one that has the ability to speak. But the catch is he only speaks Japanese. The decision to have Katsuro, one of the film's central characters, speak only Japanese is a brilliant move. It amplifies the sense of isolation and helplessness that pervades the film. By having Katsuro, a key victim, unable to communicate with the other characters no matter how much he screams, the film heightens the psychological tension and creates a barrier between him, his captors, and the other victims. His language barrier not only serves to further estrange him from the other characters, but it also reinforces the idea that he is powerless and trapped in a foreign, hostile environment. This is a subtle yet effective storytelling choice that emphasizes the dehumanization theme in the film. Katsuro is not just physically violated, but also stripped of his voice, unable to plead or reason with his captor. It's a genius move because it adds a layer of emotional depth, making the viewer feel his suffering more acutely while underscoring the extreme isolation and powerlessness of his situation. Lindsay, played by Ashley C. Williams, portrayed the fear and hopelessness that comes with dehumanization beautifully. She is the centerpiece, connecting the digestive pathways between the three. In other words, she's the bridge. It is a stark example of how the film strips the characters of their identities and personal agency. From the moment she and her friend are captured by Dr. Heiter, Lindsay is reduced from a fully realized person to nothing more than a part in the doctor's twisted experiment. Unlike some of the other characters, Lindsay doesn't even get the opportunity to speak. Heiter forces her into a position where her body is no longer hers to control, transforming her into a cog in a grotesque machine, a literal part of a human centipede. This physical and psychological violation is an extreme form of dehumanization, as Lindsay's humanity is not just stripped away, but contorted into something unnatural and repulsive. Through her, the film explores the horrific consequences of complete objectification and control, where the individual's worth is reduced to a mere function, robbed of any form of dignity or individuality. Jenny, played by Ashlyn Yini, is an interesting case. She is the final piece in the chain of the centipede, and the last thought on our minds as the movie goes on. Jenny's role in The Human Centipede can be seen as a plot device that primarily serves to advance the film's disturbing premise rather than fully develop a character. While she is presented as one of these central victims, her arc is largely defined by her victimization rather than any significant emotional or personal growth. Jenny's sole purpose, in many ways, is to be subjected to Dr. Heiter's horrific experiment. Instead, Jenny exists to embody the terror and helplessness that the film is trying to invoke. This lack of development makes Jenny a classic example of how this film uses its victims not as fully formed characters, but as mere devices to illustrate the brutal themes it's trying to portray. But I believe in this specific circumstance, it aids to express the helplessness of the characters, and portrays her no longer as a person, but as a thing that can make the other characters more realized in reality. The subtlety of a terrifying villain. Dr. Joseph Haita, played by the brilliantly unsettling Dieter Lazar. He is not the over-the-top, omnipresent entity that viewers have come to expect in horror. In fact, what makes Haiter so terrifying is his normalcy. For the majority of the movie, he doesn't scream. He doesn't rant. He's cold, calculated, and disturbingly composed. He is quiet, calm, and if not for the context, almost pleasant. His demeanor creates an eerie tension that builds throughout the movie. In a sense, Dr. Haiter is the embodiment of calculated, rationalized cruelty, and its cold, methodical nature makes him far more terrifying than any stereotypical madman villain could be. Haiter is not a madman with a chainsaw or a cackling psychopath. He's a man with a twisted vision of perfection, and that makes him more terrifying than any cartoonish horror villain. In some ways, he even reflects a darker side of humanity, the potential for people to lose their moral compass when they become obsessed with their own ideas. Now, don't get me wrong, his motivations aren't strictly clinical or scientific, despite him claiming so. Haiter's meticulous planning and calm demeanor while carrying out such grotesque acts show that he's not just performing an experiment, he's indulging in a twisted sense of superiority. By surgically connecting them into a disgusting, dependent unit, Haiter is not only physically binding them together, but also emotionally and mentally breaking them down. In this process, Haiter derives immense pleasure, not just from the vile results, but from the sheer power he holds over life and death. The dynamics he orchestrates are not just about physical domination, but a deeper psychological satisfaction he gets from reducing his victims to mere objects, tools to fulfill his desire to be all-powerful. This perverse pleasure in domination and control is what makes Haiter's villainy so chilling and emblematic of the darkest aspects of power. While not inherently sexual, there is a weird sense of fetishization in the movie. It's not explicit, but it is heavily implied that Dr. Haiter is getting some sort of sexual gratification from the existence of the centipede. But luckily it doesn't go as far as the second movie. The human centipede, intentionally or not, stands as a masterclass in psychological horror, using its grotesque premise to delve into the deepest, darkest recesses of the human mind. It is a chilling exploration for a person's capacity to suffer, lose control, and their identity. The discomforting power in the film lies in its ability to confront the dark side of human nature. How wanting power can warp moral boundaries and how deeply dehumanization can wound the psyche. The Human Centipede is more than just a basic horror film. It's a chilling exploration of human endurance in the face of unimaginable deprivation and depravity, showing that true horror doesn't lie in what's seen, but in what's felt. Hi Parasites! I hope you enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun diving into one of my favorite horror movies. This is my first ever analysis video, and there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. And I'm definitely open to tips and tricks for a better viewing experience. Comment your thoughts on the Human Centipede below. And if you haven't watched it yet, why the fuck are you here? Go watch the Human Centipede! I hope to do more videos like this in the future. Do I smell a sequel?